people. Is it going live?
You're live.
All right, we're live. So it's awesome to be live streaming. I think there's one person, no, two, no, one. Thanks everybody for coming here tonight. For people who don't know me, my name's Kerner, and I'm a co-founder of Crypto Oracle. We're a community-first crypto VC accelerator and incubator. And we have a huge focus on the community first. We really believe the biggest difference in crypto, between crypto and everything that came before it, is the importance of community. And so, we're most known for CryptoMondays, which is now in over 40 cities around the world, more than 20 countries around the world. But we do 5 other meetups, including this is officially, I think of it as a New York City a governance and consensus meetup, but it's also a Crypto Monday meetup. And so, the amazing thing about doing meetups is you open up, and I was a meetup shareholder, and the CEO kept on asking me, hey, when are you going to do a meetup? When are you going to do a meetup? So finally I did a meetup, and it was like magic. You do a meetup, and the people you want to come. And so what we have here tonight is like a room full of people who really care deeply about governance and consensus, which is really awesome, because I think we're going to have a really interesting conversation tonight about governance and consensus. And we have 2 panelists here who I think think deeply about it. Including I think one of the world thought leaders on governance and consensus. So we're going to have a lot of fun tonight, and we're going to start. I'm just going to ask each of you guys to introduce yourself, and you got to turn your microphone on. And Thibauld, start with you.
Hi everyone, thank you for showing up. So I'm Thibauld, Favre, I'm the CEO of Decisus, and I authored a white paper about continuous organization. So without going too much into detail, the continuous organization model enables founders to finance their project and build their community much more effectively than other fundraising mechanism. How we do that is the continuous organization model enables them to set up their organization in continuous fundraising mode. So that means that permissionlessly people can invest into your organization at any single time. The founder doesn't have to stop working to try to do an hypothetical fundraising. And the cherry on the cake is that as a founder, when you do that, you don't give any governance right to the investors. So it's kind of a dream for founders. And what do the investors get out of it? As an investor, first you get public liquid market price, which is the best price you can get for an asset. And second, what you get is guaranteed liquidity. So basically, as an investor, you trade governance rights for liquidity. So you may not agree with how the company is doing, but you can walk away at any time.
So I just want to point, I kind of feel when I saw the crypto light, like I saw the world as one thing, and then when I saw crypto, like I felt the world was so much bigger, and there was so much more that was now possible with this new thing. And I'm sure like everybody in the room, I do a lot of reading, but it's not really often when I read something that, wow, the world's even bigger, right? I mean, I really think the biggest thing about crypto is what it will do that nobody's thinking about today. Right, and so I love when I read something and it makes me see the world as a little bit bigger thing, and Thibaud's piece, in my mind, really helped move the dialogue forward. So it's what's called continuous organizations. It's just everybody read it, and then we got to know each other, and I thought it'd be a great addition to the discussion tonight. And then Matan.
Hi. So firstly, I'm both cold and jet lagged, so be easy on me. Yes, my name is Matan. Originally I'm a theoretical physicist. I've done my PhD in the Weizmann Institute in string theory, and somehow got to know about the blockchain around 2014, early 2014, got mind blown, and after a few months quit, during my postdoc, and then I quit the academy and opened my own company. And the thing that kind of got my attention from the beginning was the potential for decentralized organization. I had a crash on DAOs from the beginning. So for the past, I would say 4 or 5 years, I've been designing protocols and interfaces and platforms and frameworks for decentralized governance, and specifically for DAOs. And the last iteration in the last couple of years is DAO Stack, which is basically just doing that. It's a whole stack technological stack for DAOs, all the way from the lowest protocol, decentralized governance level, and up to the application, the interface, the DApp for DAOs, and which are launching in public beta next month.
And so, yeah, obviously you can kind of start this dialogue anywhere, but yeah, I think one of the more interesting things to talk about, to put decentralized governance into context, is to talk about centralized governance. So, as you've thought about decentralized governance and how it works, is there anything that is there anything you're bringing from centralized governance so that we can learn from centralized governance?
Well, for me, actually, it's funny. For me, centralized governance is just a corner. It's a point in the space inside centralized governance, just where the number of people are small. So it's just a particular case. So of course, yes, there are things that we're taking from centralized governance, and there are things that we're learning not to take. So the things that we're taking, of course, is the notion of voting system. At the end of the day, governance is about taking inputs, taking signals, and transition them into decisions. That's governance. And voting system is basically that, I would say, atom of that framework. So in that sense, central governance is not very different. What is very different, though, is that centralized governance is not very scalable. So centralized governance cannot, two things. It's not very scalable, and the interests are not very aligned with the larger community that it's supposed to serve. The extremism will become corruption.
Let's make sure we're using centralized governance in the same. So I'm talking about any organization that has a central governance. So the United States, for instance.
Yeah.
And that's what you're talking about too. Just making sure.
Right. So the big difference then, when you speak about decentralized governance, you mean that rather than one decision maker or 10, doesn't matter, you have maybe 10,000 decision makers. And the problem with 10,000 decision makers is that how do you reach decisions by so many people about each and every decision? Maybe you have 10,000 people, and then you have 10,000 decisions to make in 1 month. How do you make all of those people look at so many decisions? And if they don't, if only, let's say, 20 people look at each and every decision, how do you actually make the decisions that are formed by 20 to actually represent the thinking of 10,000? This is a conflict with central governance, which we solved in a way that I'll describe later.
Okay. Thibauld?
So I guess decentralized governance is kind of the holy grail, because in any organization you have a lot of stakeholders, and today, like with centralized governance, it's very, very hard to defend the interest of all the stakeholders. So centralized governance, I think it works very well. It's very fast. The decision making is very quick. The problem with centralized governance is that it's very hard for it to defend the interest of all the stakeholders. Like Rousseau was saying, the best governance is like a enlightened despotism, right? So what decentralized governance is trying to achieve is say, can we actually come up with governance mechanism that can truly embodies like the every stakeholder and get decisions that every stakeholders is in every stakeholder's interest.
Exactly. That's the trick. By the way, we call it holographic consensus. Just in the hologram, if you look at a piece of the image, you can actually see the whole image. So in holographic consensus, you probe a very small portion of the system, but you're ensured to actually see the whole, the thinking of the whole system.
Is there any way to get a little more deep into how that's accomplished?
There is, yes. Well, it's kind of like by definition. I mean, you basically. So let's do, I guess, a few lines on the basics.
We're kind of cutting to the guts of it, I guess.
Yeah, sure. I mean, maybe I just trying to kind of like measure like the level of technicality that you want to probe. You can raise your hand if you're interested, and you can just kind of fall asleep if you're not. Okay. So yeah. So I said that we need to solve a conflict. So we want the system to be scalable. So think about this machine, this like brain made of 10,000 people, right? And this brain of 10,000 neurons, so-called people, they have a lot of thinking, a lot of thoughts, they run proposals all the time, maybe 10,000 proposals a month. And you want to scan all of those proposals and say yes, 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 no, 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 yes, 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 like that, so fast. Now, for the sake of scalability of throughput, of capacity, if you want to run so many decisions every day, by definition, you cannot ask everyone to look at everything, right? That's trivial, right? If you ask everyone to look at everything, you won't run any decision, right? So you need a small group of people to make a decision. That's by definition of scalability. But then by definition of resiliency, you need to make sure that that decision that those 20 here are making is actually reflecting what the 10,000 people will say if you just ask them, okay? If they just had the attention to look at it. So what we have done to make it possible, this kind of like magic, but they kind of like need to read the minds of everyone else, is to create a crypto economic game. Who's familiar with the word crypto economic game? Well, oh, wow, what an audience. It's
I don't want to brag,
yeah.
So I hang with a good crowd.
Yeah. So, okay, so you need to create a crypto economic game that translate social arbitrage into economic arbitrage. So social arbitrage is that, okay, these gangs over here are trying to form a decision that will represent everyone, okay? And I think they are not really representing well the majority. I think that they are forming a decision that does not reflect the majority. And my way to signal that is to bet against it. I'm betting that if more people look at it, they are not going to approve this decision. And then these people, if they want to actually get the decision into the focal point, they need someone to bet on their favor. But then someone is going to lose his money. So basically, this system is transforming social arbitrage. Anyone can recognize misbehaviors anywhere, bet against them, and by that basically guarantee that once decisions are made, they're actually reflective of the majority. And of course, you also put a threshold, like the more, in a way, the more the attention of the collective is diluted, i.e. looking at a larger number of decisions per unit of time, the more the staking of tokens in order to even look at the decision is higher, and in fact exponentially higher. Probably that was a mess, right? Should I say that again, or should I just leave that there? Say it again, okay. The more the collective attention is diluted,
I'm sorry, the more the...
collective attention is diluted.
I'm sorry, collective attention.
Attention, yeah, collective attention, sorry. My Israeli accent is...
Plus the jet lag, yeah.
You have like as bad accent, right?
Yes. Thanks.
So the more the collective attention is diluted, that is, it is looking right now, is considering more and more decision that needs to be executed, then the more the threshold, the higher the threshold of stakes that people need to put in order to even examine a decision into execution, and in fact exponentially more. So it's a protective, it's like an anti-fragile, it's a protective mechanism, yeah.
So, and
I think there is a...
well, it's a bit, we'll have a dialogue here, and we totally will get to the audience, because I have no doubt that lots of awesome questions will come to the audience. I want to give these guys a bit of chance to talk. So anyway, do you want to comment on anything that Matan said?
Yeah, I think I'd like to illustrate it, because it's very easy to illustrate. So before this project I'm working on, I organized a big open primary in France to designate, crowdsource the best candidate for the French presidential election. And so that's a lot of stake. And you would think that you give the collective attention of people, but it's very hard to make people turn out to elections, right? And you know a thing or two about it in the US. and so that's one of the problems. So I'll take, as we didn't have the stack before. What we are doing is we are trying to limit considerably the attention needed for voters. Like our goal was to say you can do the whole process. We just need 5 minutes of your brain time to participate, and that was our goal. Like if we can reduce the level of attention we need from the citizen to 5 minutes, then we get a shot at doing a large scale primary. So we had 150,000 people participating. It was great. But that's the problem, because if we were requiring more of that, more than 5 minutes, then you lose everybody, and then in the end you have only a small group of people voting, and it's not representative.
But I just want to emphasize, that's a good preparation. I want to emphasize, we are really speaking about something new here. It's not similar to anything that we're familiar with. I'm not speaking about 100,000. So let's give the numbers. Let's imagine 100,000 people running an organization. Okay, 100,000 journalists running a free decentralized media outlet. Okay, completely decentralized, no corruption, no politics. These 100,000 people, I'm not speaking about possibly making 5 decisions a day. No, they make 10,000 decisions a day. These 100,000 people make 10,000 decisions a day. And I don't want them to be having little attention on each decision. If you consider a decision, you need to be well considering as much time as you need. And still, I'm speaking about an organization of 100,000 people that can organize and make 10,000 decisions a day and run completely distributedly in a sense that there is no single person that understands what's going on. Literally, there's no single person that understands what's happening, and still this thing just works.
And where are we in terms of this actually being a reality?
Very soon. I mean, we already have a working system on the mainnet with an interface. It has been tested for the past 4 months. It has been tested.
But right, I mean, I assume you know, right? The only thing you know for sure is what's going to happen is different than what you think is going to happen.
Right. So that's why I'm telling you about the past. We have an online system on the blockchain with an interface that has been tested with a tiny group of 100 people. It has been very successful. There are a few people out there that are sources of that success, such as that guy, that gentleman in the pink. And now we are not. But to be honest, I mean that system is pretty crappy. I mean the interface hardly load and you wait like for a minute and all those stuff because it's on the blockchain. And then now we have upgraded all of the infrastructure so that it will feel like just regular web app. It will load like that. It has a slick design. It has upgraded protocol and all that. And this whole package will launch next month and start with experiments, maybe 500 people, maybe 1,000 people. But we're going like one scale further. So we'll see.
But I guess there's one example I can think of in the world of decentralized governance is Bitcoin. So it's the absence of governance, but that's still a mode of governance.
But that is, yes, exactly. But it's important to people recognize that.
Actually, I think Bitcoin does have a governance. It has fork-driven governance. I mean, you can disagree with the current version. You can just fork it, and we see beautiful forks, many of them, hundreds.
That's true.
Governance by exit.
Yeah, exactly.
What I meant is that there's no voting or anything. Like basically the governance lies in the financial incentives. Everybody's incentivized. It's like independent agent, either trying to gain more bitcoins or increase the value of Bitcoin. That's what drives the ecosystem.
I would argue that there is voting in Bitcoin. When I download a client and run a client, I'm voting. I'm voting for that client. If majority of people run the same client, in fact same compatibility rules client, this is the result. The lack of Bitcoin is that you can only vote on one thing, only one kind of decision, which protocol to run. That's the only decision that this system can. And the whole purpose of DAOs is to form any decision. So we can raise. So what if we now have a shared goal? All of these people in the room maybe have one shared goal. I'm pretty sure that we have 1 or 2 shared goals. So what if we tomorrow open an organization and there are 2 criteria? If you can join with 2 criteria, you need to put a share, in, I would say $1,000. Is there anyone who would, if it is a really great cause, he would not put $1,000? Okay, we are pretty fine. So we've got, 100 people, $1,000, we get $100,000 in. And then the other rule is that the existing system voted that you are a member, because maybe you're a snake and you're just trying to put down the government. So we're going to each member needs to be voted by the existing circle. Now after we all got in and this just happened overnight, we now have a party, but we have $100,000 to start with. We just raised it overnight. So these are the kind of things that we'll start seeing. Like just as Facebook. Think before Facebook, if you had an idea, we say activism in Hebrew, but in English, activism? Activism, okay. So activism pre-Facebook was so difficult, right? You had an idea, agenda, and you wanted to bring 10,000 people to listen to your agenda and discuss about it. It was almost impossible, like probably harder than making a startup. And then in Facebook, you just open a group, and in 1 week you can bring 10,000 people to discuss an idea. But then still there is the next step. What do you do then? Like, how do you raise money? How do you form decisions? How do you make actions? Then it stops. And next phase, you just raise that money overnight, just as you open that group.
And as you're thinking about it, are there industries or areas that you think there's more opportunity for this kind of, for a DAO than elsewhere?
I guess common goods. I think common goods is the best example because, like, for example, I don't think you can do a startup with a decentralized governance. You need fast-paced decisions. So
I would place a bet here, but okay.
But no, I guess maybe in the future. But honestly, so yeah, I'd like to place a bet also on this because I think a startup it's about the pace of decision and the number of decisions you can take, and I don't think it can be beaten from centralized governance. So
and let me decide to talk a little bit more about the continuous organizations. Where does that fit in terms of decentralized organizations and how you see things evolving?
So DAOs and decentralized governance really care about decision making, and what continuous organization model does is it does not care at all about decision making. It cares about creating financial incentives. So I guess where it fits in is that if the organization has a business model, then a continuous organization model can be a great fit to a DAO. In several instances, first, like, okay, you have these financial incentives, you can raise money, so how do you allocate the money after? So it's useful to have a DAO to decide how you allocate the money. And the same, like you have the parameters of your continuous organization. How do you change the parameter? Like so far it's immutable, but you can think that in the future, like these few parameters could be changed with a DAO. I think the one thing that enables decentralized organization is that for the first time, we can have a direct link between a vote and an action. Before, like there was a vote and you always have people in between. And when you have people in between, it's a mess. Okay, like because so for the first time you can say, okay,
people are overrated.
Well, no, it's like just when
in the wrong place. Put in the wrong place.
Put in the wrong place. Let's put it like this. So that's the thing where I think continuous organization model and DAOs are a great fit because the continuous organization model just brings financial incentives and really is a complement to a DAO that really cares about governance and taking the decisions of allocating the money and deciding on the parameter of the organization.
By the way, I would not call continuous organization a complement to DAO. For me again, from my perspective, continuous organization is a feature of a DAO. So we have governance framework, there are many modules. So continuous organization is just one module that DAO can choose to implement. And then, by the way, I think it's a great module. It's one of the best. Actually, when I started DAOstack, I wanted to make it a continuous organization. Like, I wanted to make it completely bootstrap. Yeah, but my co-founders want to raise funds and all that crap. But just to go back to your question, I think it's a really good question. Really,
thank you.
I always come back to like what are like good use cases. It's not easy to like predict. I think the guiding rule is that where the existing solution really suck. So use cases where existing. So you say public goods, and I agree because public goods governance really suck. That's sorry, UNICEF. But so either because of conflict of interest, or because ineffectiveness, or because inability to scale, or because these kind of like these are usually the key things that break down governance. And that, for example, another sector that I think is pretty suck is insurance. I think the insurance is very centralized insurance.
I think insurance is right.
Yeah, so conflict of interest is really a big thing there. So the centralized insurance I think would be much better. Specific insurance I think is a good from the potential, but it's a relatively hard use case to implement. So it's not where we start, for example. And I would predict it will take, we'll see maybe 2 more years before we see that.
So the last question, and then I'll open it up to the audience, is as you think about DAO Stack, and you think about the competitive landscape, what are the features that you're competing, that competition is being based on, and how are you moving DAO Stack forward given that?
So first to say, we don't have any competitors. I mean, we're not competing with Aragon or Colony, but rather Aragon, Colony, and us competing about the world understanding this new vision and on the world attention. That's from my perspective. But yes, I mean the landscape. But yes, taking it seriously, we have.
No, but that is serious. But I mean that I think is really one of the cool things is right. There's nothing but crumbs out there today, right? I mean we barely started, if we started at all. So what you shouldn't be competing against anybody. Let's make a cake and then we can slice it up.
Exactly. But nevertheless, I mean, to relate anyhow, there is a few dozens of projects today that are kind of like building. I'm just not sure.
Oh no, sorry.
Okay.
He said something.
That's okay. So there is maybe a few dozen projects that are building a DAOs or DAO-related stuff. There are 3 to 4 to 5 big projects. So Colony, Aragon, DAO Stack are among them. The landscape is so big that really there is no competition. Each project is kind of have slightly different focus. So for example, you can go to a more vertical-oriented platform. So for example, Colony is developing a platform for working collaborative, like teams, actually decentralized startups, exactly that, platform with decentralized startups. And DAO Stack and Aragon developing a whole generic framework which you can do also different DAOs. So particularity versus diversity is one axis. Another axis is a small scale versus large scale. Aragon has a sleek interface that will work amazingly for 20 people, doing governance like a board. But and for 20 people, you probably don't need our technology. Like it's a fancy, complex technology. You probably don't need it. But if you want to run a DAO with 10,000 people, I think Aragon technology will simply break down, at 50. And so again, the second dimension would be scale, small scale to large scale. I think these are the two main axes where you see, kind of, it's called competition, but I see it as diversity.
Yeah, I think that's a great point. Thibauld, before you open up to the audience, any other comments you want to make about kind of how you're looking at the landscape?
I definitely agree. There's even room for many more players and projects. I don't see competition between them because they're indeed coming from different theoretical foundations. I don't remember if your IC was widely successful or just successful.
It was.
But I'm really happy that they are.
Sorry. I mean, objectively it was.
No, but what makes me optimistic about the future is that they are very well funded, and because this is a super hard topic, and so it's gonna take a long time and a lot of iterations to get it right, and so this is why I think we have a shot because you need funding.
And let me
but just to echo that, so right now the situation is a really weird situation. We haven't experienced before. There are so many projects with so much fun. I mean we are tiny, but there's projects out there with hundreds of millions of dollars, and all of them are looking for DAOs. There is so much interest right now.
How much did you raise?
We raised 30 million, but we are the tiniest in the space. Those projects who raised 20 million a year and a half ago, and either did 10x, they now hold, you do the math, and so there is so much money right now in that space, and many of them are looking daily on how to DAOify them, and the level of interest here is so big, and the technology advances so fast that we're going to see some results. So
I just wanted to follow up and where are you in terms of how you're thinking about bringing the continuous organization forward?
So yeah, so we're much younger. So yeah, the white paper was just released in October, and so I'm about to release an update, because we had tons of feedback from the community, and so now we're finalizing the model, and as soon as it's finalized, we're starting to implement it. So we hope, like in the first quarter of this year, to release a reference implementation, a smart contract for anybody who wants to run a customization.
So maybe you could maybe we could do integration for your module as a module in the.
I'm all for it. I'd love to.
Amazing.
Okay, terrific. So we'll take some questions from the audience. Here you go.
Hi, Marina. How are you? I have a question regarding behavioral economics. Says that the crowds are actually not smart, right? That in fact, especially in voting, they are particularly not smart. How are you making sure that your projects are trying to make sure that your crowds, your groups, are smarter as possible?
And I'm sorry, just to make sure that the audience, because it's also recording, but the question was, can you repeat the question and then you can answer it?
Sure. So this is a really good question, and yeah, I think it's one of the biggest concerns that usually I often hear. So you're asking, well, I just preached to you that decentralized organization is better, but well, it's definitely more scalable, but who said it's smarter, right? It can be a decentralized, wide, stupid organization. Yeah. So the thing is that's a real concern. Now, first, two things. Firstly, the way to make a good, smart organization is by allocating reputation, i.e. voting power, correctly, okay? Well, actually three things I would say. So the first thing, allocate reputation correctly. You need for those who are most informed, most contributional, most whatever your value system is, get the most reputation, i.e. voting power, because they make decisions. So just understand, it's not a democracy, it's not a flat democracy, one man, one, it's not that. You know, if you are more contributional to the network, you get more reputation, your vote counts more. That's number one. Number two, we are entering a phase that is kind of like unknown. Like you're asking how we make sure that DAO is good, but who defines what good is? Maybe what good's for you is not what good's for him. So I would say that what this circle is voting for as the right thing is they're good, okay? Now, of course, you can ask, but objectively, maybe that good will just fail economically, for example. So that then go back to number one, allocate reputation correctly, and then the next question will be, okay, but how do you allocate reputation? That's a big question. So I will try to keep that for another question. Number three, actually number 3 and 4, sorry. Number 3 is local evolution.
I'm capping you at 4.
Okay, that's 4. Number 3 is local evolution. So you need to have mechanism designed inside the protocol such that reputation flows. It's actually like number 1, but rather than allocate, it's like continuous allocation. It's like continuous allocation or flow of reputation. Those who are making decisions which are good, and then we need to agree about what we mean by good, and let's not open that right now. It's another question. Get more reputation. Those who are voting bad gets less reputation. That's number 3.
And is reputational multidimensional? Right?
That's another question, but I counted 4. I'm sorry.
So
it can be, but let's for now, for a reason that I can describe later, let's make it 1 for now. And number 4, which is the most important, that's really the answer to your question, is global evolution. So I will form a DAO. I think I know how to allocate reputation, and you don't agree with me, so you would form another DAO because you just need to click a few buttons. You open your DAO, and Thibauld doesn't agree with us, and he opens his DAO, but one of us will succeed over the other. And then the evolution, the economic evolution, it's an economic evolution of governance protocols. There will be like thousands of governance protocols out there, and multiplied by thousands of reputation allocation distribution mechanism out there, with like millions of use cases, and some will thrive. And these will be copy-pasted over time. So copy-pasted both the protocols and the reputation distribution. I will open a new DAO and say, okay, there's already successful DAO out there. I will copy-paste the reputation distribution from that DAO, for example. So you get, but not just evolution, but evolution with steroids, because there is economic, strong economic multiplying here?
So I think there's another thing that's completely overlooked, is the voting mechanism in itself. Because what we observe, like this primary also, is that like to have a smart crowd, you need to treat people like adults. And in many ways, the voting mechanism that we use today, like say yes or no, you know, it's binary, and it's very frustrating at so many levels. And so for the primary one we used, and it's not very well known in the US, but it's taking off in France. It's a new voting mechanism that's been invented by two French mathematicians. It's called the majority judgment. And the majority judgment, what it does is, instead of voting binary, so it's not binary, it's not ranked, you have like 5 candidates or 5 choices, and what you do is you grade them from very good to be rejected. And then the calculus of the result uses the median instead of the average. And this is really, people loved it, because it's so much better. Like sometimes you have 5 choices, and we ask you like, pick one. No, my choice cannot be reduced to binary choice like this. I want to say, this one, I hate him. This one, I love him. This one, meh. And that's good, because then you don't feel frustrated about voting. So I think one of the things to get a smart crowd is also to change the voting mechanisms that we are using.
What was it called again?
Majority judgment.
Metro?
Majority judgment. So there's a book.
Majority.
Come on, guys, you're French, right? So how should I say it? Majority, M-A-J-O-R-I-T-Y, judgment. Jugement majoritaire. Please repeat.
So I echo this, and that's exactly why we designed DAOstack the way we design it, because I think there are so many different voting systems out there.
Did you shut off your thing accidentally? Because you're not.
I did, thank you. So I echo Thibauld. There are so many exciting, cool voting systems out there, and also so many that we haven't yet discovered. And that's why we designed DAOstack in a completely modular way. We can experiment with different models. That's the evolution I spoke about. And some will be just more successful than the others. And yeah, I completely agree with that. These are some of the schemes that will appear down the year. These kind of like cool schemes that you will see users, you know, what they like and the result they produce.
Matan, hi. There's another dimension, I know you mentioned 2, but one that I've been sort of looking at in the world of DAOs, decentralized organizations, that's the legal dimension. So the way I understood the difference between DAOstack and say, well actually the other organizations like Aragon, is that they're actually handling the legal dimension as well. So not only do you have a decentralized group of people around the world or in different countries or in communities, but there's an actual legal framework that actually protects the actual participants. So if there was some sort of legal dispute, there'd actually be an avenue to go out into the legal realm and actually resolve that. Is that something that's like on another layer, if there is such a thing as like layers to decentralized organizations? Is DAOstack part of the legal dimension, or is that below it, or you know, lower on the stack?
So, yeah, not sure.
And again, just please, you know, repeat the question.
Yeah. So, okay, that's a good point, because I'm not sure I understood the question properly. So tell me, repeat the question. Tell me to what extent. So the question was that I'm not sure if I agree with that. So I'm asking, but I'm saying the question. So that the Aragon calling take care of the regulatory legal framework.
If there's an issue in the community.
So I see two. So just to fine tune your question, I see 2 different kind of legal things. That just tell me which of them you're referring to. One is that there is a dispute in the community, and we need to take care of that dispute. So it's legally internally. And 2 is that actually compliance with the legacy regulatory legal framework. These are 2 different things. You're referring to the former, latter, or both?
Yeah, I mean, the best example is just like Nano right now is being sued in a class action lawsuit.
So legacy.
So the latter. So you're actually referring to legal compliance.
Yeah.
So I think that no project today is solving legal compliance. None of them. We're actually speaking together to jointly produce that. I think no project right now have regulation. I mean, we spoke, for example, we spoke with the Treasury Minister of Gibraltar, because we are incorporated in Gibraltar, so we had a meeting with the Treasury, you say? Treasury Minister of Gibraltar, to tell him why don't we work together to produce a DAO regulation? He was, whoa, and we just also want to poke him. You know that Matan is already working on it. So okay, so let's form this group. So yeah, these things are in motion, but these are like so early on. There is no regulatory framework for DAOs. By the way, there is one claim to be regulatory framework for DAOs in Seychelles by a group called Corporatio. We haven't yet, examined that deeply. I think it will take some more time before an external regulatory framework will be provided. Internal regulatory framework, which means is a dispute resolution, is definitely a dimension that exists, and some projects put more emphasis on it, some projects put less emphasis on it. And for example, both Colony and Aragon, the dispute resolution network is a core feature of their value proposition. For us, in a way, it's kind of like redundant because our scalable governance system is in itself, by definition, also a dispute resolution, although we can also have a more particular dispute resolution network, which we haven't yet built. But yeah, so that's, if you wish, that's another dimension.
And for consolidation, it's much easier because we have not this voting governance part. So we're the tokens of a consolidation are securities, especially by US securities law. And so we're exploring, and I thought there would be a lot of hurdles, but actually there's not that many. We're going to start under the Reg CF exemption, which fits pretty well. So that's a limitation, but it's a good start. So in the US, actually, we're going to use that exemption.
Can you talk about why DAOstack Alchemy focuses specifically on financial-related decisions? And then can you focus on the UX problem? I think you should ask people here, like how many people have used Alchemy, and especially with MetaMask and how that relates to hanging chads.
Yeah, so there was a lot of questions there. No, a lot of good questions there. So let's see. So firstly, why do we focus on fund management? So actually, well, I have two answers. The first is that we don't. But then the second is that we do, and because it's because it's kind of like the low-hanging fruit. So fund management is something that there's actually a large demand right now in the market, in the crypto market, for projects that raise a lot of money. They hold large funds and they want to build open source community around the project. They call it a grant program, right? The Ethereum Foundation grant program, the Web3 grant program, Gnosis runs a grant program, Status runs a grant program, and these grant programs, it's kind of like they throw the baby with the, how do you say that? With the bathwater. So basically, the whole purpose is to drive an open source big community, right? So then you'd expect thousands of applications, but then you have a committee of 5 people that can screen 2 applications a month. So then nobody submit application because you know that you're just waiting for nothing. You're working for a month to submit an application that nobody will look at. And then eventually that's the problem of grant programs. And that's exactly what we developed Alchemy. You can now run a grant program with hundreds of application months processed. But then I'm going back, we don't mean that, yes, in the next version, very coming version, which is actually launching 4th of April, and there is a very specific date for that because there is a very specific DAO that is already bounded to launch on 4th of April. In that version, the outcome of a proposal, so you'll be able to make a proposal, the outcome of which is any call on the blockchain. So not just funding, not anything. You can call any function on any contract on blockchain. So for example, the DAO that I'm speaking about is called the DX DAO. You just Google it, DX DAO. It's launched on the reputation bootstrap period launches in mid-February, and then the DAO activation is in 4th of April. Just to tell you a little about that, it's coming from DutchX. DutchX is a product that Gnosis has built. It's a decentralized exchange. It will be the first decentralized exchange in the world, because all decentralized exchanges that you know familiar with today are actually not really decentralized. There's actually someone controlling the upgradability of the platform. And DutchX or Gnosis decided to make DutchX fully decentralized, which means from day one, DutchX will be owned by a DAO, which is called the DX DAO. And the DX DAO will be able to do anything. There will be complete ownership of the DEX. They will be able to upgrade the system. They will be able to change the protocol. They will be able to decide that one day they take a cut from the trading fees on DEX Central Exchange. Trading fees, they can cut off 10% to the DAO, and then supporting development. They will be able to tweet, messages. The DAO is a living system. Will be able to tweet every 2 hours what he thinks right now. They will be able to do everything. And this version is coming up live on 4th of April. So in that sense, we're not very focusing on fund management, but I do think fund management is a good low-hanging fruit.
And
there were many other questions, but I guess just to give some, space time for other.
So the last question is that we'll be able to, both of the speakers will be hanging around, so you'll be able to ask questions directly and hang out. So last question.
Yeah, just following on from the smart lady over there that asked the first question. This whole thing about reputation and so on for this decentralized governance. My concern is that in a DAO where decisions have to be on multiple facets, who is an expert in a particular area is not necessarily an expert in another area. So when you have a reputation system that's based on how much they have been engaging, that doesn't mean that they're relevant in terms of their knowledge to make an optimal decision in a particular thing. So how do you address that kind of complexity?
This is a really good question and a really complicated one. Generally, the British system are a really complex matter which is under investigated. But there are, I think, about 4 answers to this. So.
You need to repeat the question.
Oh, sorry, I need to repeat the question. Yes.
Thank you, Thibauld.
Got your back.
So, we got a reputation system, and then decisions in the DAO are very, very multifaceted. So we decide, this reputation system will decide about what to support in terms of development, and what to support in terms of business model, or business development, and then what to support in terms of marketing, and regulation, and all of these aspects should be supported by the same reputation system, and people that are good in this are not necessarily good in that, and then it depends on engagement. Is roughly reflecting the question correctly? Okay. So there are, I think, 4 answers. Let me see if I can recollect the 4 answers. So the first answer is that what will happen, I call it fractalization. So a real DAO will not really take all decisions under one umbrella, but there will be many sub-agencies and sub-sub-agencies and sub-sub-sub-agencies, and you can go on like that for a few more. And maybe that agency will deal with development, just like a company. In fact, this answer is not different from a regular company, but that will also happen in DAO. The interesting thing, though, is that in a DAO, so if you're familiar with this terminology of tree, in a company, this kind of thing looks like a tree, right? In a DAO, the department of R&D of this DAO can also do R&D for that DAO. Usually in a company it doesn't work, right? Your R&D department doesn't do R&D for your competitor. In a DAO, there is no reason why not to, because it's open space. So it's fractalization or compositionality. So that's one answer. A second possible answer is to your question. You can have multiple reputation systems in one DAO, but the reason why you don't necessarily need is just number 1, because you probably will have fractalization. The third is that you have probably delegation system inside a DAO, such that maybe I don't understand in regulatory, but I trust Roberto a lot, and he understands. So whatever he votes, I would join that. So it's combining with trust. And the fourth, which is exactly holographic consensus, is basically when you don't understand something, you just better not vote or just say I don't understand. And that's also a way to express your opinion. So these are the 4 ways, and they are combined. I think they are, yeah.
Thibauld, you want to add anything?
2 governance for me. I don't have anything relevant to add.
Okay, so I would say a lot of the value is hanging out with everybody who's here, so I want to leave a lot of time for that. But these guys were awesome. Let's give them a big round of applause.
Just thanks to us. Yeah.